These are splash arts from Honkai Star Rail. Eye-catching, dynamic, complicated. They have to stand out, yet stay consistent even when drawn by different artists. As for me, I'm the complete opposite. Half-body, simple, and inconsistent. I'm just stuck in this comfort zone, scared of spending my time on drawing anything too detailed. So when the team at Honkai Star Rail challenged me to create my own art in their art style, I thought, shh. But then I thought, if these artworks have to be drawable by different artists, then shouldn't there be some kind of systems behind them? So in this video, I'll be attempting to recreate this splash art of Cyrene from scratch, showing you my journey in unraveling their hidden system, then putting that to the test and see if an amateur like me can also draw like the pros. Where do I even start? When it came to the line art, I actually did this twice. First, I spent 20 minutes tracing them, which helped me get a better feel of their brushwork, like feeling out the curves of the skin and hair, or the roughness and the organic feeling of the fabric. But mainly, this was just a good warm-up for building confidence. Then after this, I got into the actual recreation attempt. Here, I used Clip Studio's default round brush, but looking back, something with a little more texture might be more true to the original art. Next came the coloring. I first added the base colors, then when it came to the shadows, this was where things started falling apart for me. I tried adding some initial shadows using multiply blend mode, but I have no idea what's going on here. Especially with the hair. I mean, just look at this. To make things worse, I couldn't find any resources. No time-lapse, no behind-the-scene process, not even a single name of the artist. At this point, I was looking for some kind of hints, a clue, anything. Then I stumbled upon these gems. These are super simple drawings of the characters used in the game. While there wasn't one of Cyrene when I was doing this, I thought this was it. Because if I'm able to break this down and understand how they do the hair, there's a chance I could link this back to the splash art. So first, I did the line art and base colors. Then when I looked closer at the hair, I noticed these colored glows. These can also be seen in the splash art itself, like on the bangs to show translucency, or as secondary colors for the hair. So I added these in using a soft brush. Next, I added the first shadow using multiply blend mode. This first shadow is the form shadow to help give depth and volume to the head. Then the second shadow as the cast and occlusion shadows. You can do this on one layer, but I feel like separating them just makes it much easier to adjust later on. And lastly, the highlights. I also finished off the rest of the image using the same coloring system. I noticed how the lines in Honkai arts are never actually black, so I changed the color of the line art to something more brown. Then as the finishing touch, use color dodge to brighten up the face. And yeah, that was the basic system to color like Honkai Star Rail. But to be honest, I'm not actually sure if this is actually going to work with the real splash arts. So to test that out, I went and did these small section studies, which showed me that it actually worked. That being said, this was probably not what the artists actually used, but I hope that this serves as a good starting point for anyone who wants to draw in this style. Okay, back to the main study. Even with a clear system to follow, the amount of details was just insane. I had to take it slow, just one small section at a time, otherwise my head would have just... Also, it took me 3 years to discover that in Clip Studio Paint, you can press C to turn your brush into an eraser. This was so useful for carving the shadows. I just wish I knew this 3 years earlier. I did the background in just 4 layers. The base color, clouds using textured brush, water ripples, then noise brush for the stars. There was a lot of complicated looking parts, but when I took this one section at a time, it was actually not as hard as I thought. And after a total of 13 hours, here's how my recreation of Cyrene's splash art turned out. It's pretty incredible. I learned a lot about how to draw in Honkai Star Rail's art style, but now the real question is, how much of this can I actually apply in my own attempt? Just when I thought I had cracked their coloring system, I realized I have no clue how to draw like Honkai style. Maybe first I should understand their composition. Why do they feel so dynamic? Is there some kind of pattern to their rhythm? So I started by putting up composition grids on top of the illustrations, hoping that somehow it'll just fit. Oh my god, it actually fits. At least for some of them. Some fits perfectly in this rule of thirds grid, while some you have to move it around. This works, right? But most just didn't work. Oh man. Every time I thought I had found a system, that thing turns out to be just a one-off. I felt like I was spending hours investigating something that doesn't exist. Just when I was about to throw in the towels, this splash art of Dunhang with no background somehow snaps cleanly into this grid. A square for the main arts, and the rule of thirds on top for the flow of the artwork. Then another. And one by one, they all magically fits into this grid system. How cool is that? Within this grid, you can clearly see how the characters were constructed, like the shapes of the composition or the rhythm of the artwork. While I have no idea whether this was what the original artist used, these grids will serve as guidance for my drawings. And now it's time to draw. Okay, not yet. Because first, I need to gather some inspirations on the character that I will be drawing, Cyrene. Cyrene is one of the newest characters from Honkai Star Rail, a galactic fantasy RPG by Hoyoverse. This setting of space will serve as the main environment for my drawings. Cyrene, the embodiment of love and hope, although a gentle character, has a sick ultimate that will kick your enemy's ass into a different galaxy. When I saw this for the first time, I knew I had to capture these moments in my art. Other inspiration includes being an ice-type character, wielding a bow that manifests energy arrows, and the symbolic ring and infinity symbol. Now that I have my mood board, I started thumbnailing. If you're interested, you can use the link and the limited time code below to experience the new story and the character yourself. I then picked my 3 favorite sketches, narrowed down to just one, and refined that. I realized how Honkai's art often utilized perspective to create a sense of depth, something I suck at. So I grabbed a random grid online, dropped it into my canvas, warped it, and used that as my guide. Same for Cyrene's arrows. I wanted that to come right at you. So I opened Blender, made a cone, view wireframes, and used that as my guide. And as for the crazy foreshortened pose, I videoed myself and also used 3D models as reference. But there comes times where no shortcuts will help you, like with the hair. When I look at the hair, I notice how they often curve inwards to show a sense of depth, and how each of them can be broken down into big and small shapes. So I drew the hair with this in mind. And above all, every single piece fits inside of this grid system, with the main shape forming an inverted triangle to convey energy and motion. And when it comes to coloring, you already know the drill. I honestly can't believe how well things are going. Without a system, I was so terrified of the blank canvas and its infinite possibilities. So I realized that these systems, at least for me, served as creative restraints, just guidelines to make a blank canvas less scary. And here's how my final drawing turned out. I splashed out with Honkai's DNA, but with my own flair and personality. If you skipped through the video and just saw this, you might think this looks complicated. But if you watch this all the way through, you already know the hidden systems that made all this possible. Having said all that, that's not what truly matters here. In fact, we all have our own systems for drawing or creative work. I think what I really learned here was how to use those systems effectively, stacking them to push past what I thought was possible for me. Despite all the shortcomings, I'm just happy I was able to create this. It's definitely one of the most complex pieces I've made, and it's a huge leap out of my comfort zone. Oh, and one last thing. While working on this video, I was captivated by Honkai Star Rail's animation. I just love this live 2D animated illustration style, so I thought I had to give this a try. First, I separated my drawings into parts, exported them into After Effects. For the animation, there's really only 4 simple tricks I used. First was using AFP hair script to automatically animate the hairs and clothes. I made a video on this before if you're interested in a deeper dive. Second was the puppet pin to create simple body movement. Just 3 keyframes and a simple expression to loop the animation. Third was using the wave warp to animate the energy effects. And last but probably most used was the wiggle expression. I added this to pretty much everything else. And yeah, 4 simple animation tricks that's super fast but really effective. And this was the final outcome. Files from this video are in the description. Thank you to Honkai Star Rail for sponsoring this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching.